This is the story of the not-so-distant past. Before the Breath of the Wild, before the Wind Waker, before the Twilight Princess, there was The Legend of Zelda. Probably one of the most critically acclaimed game series of all time. The Legend of Zelda has a spot in everyone's heart, no matter who you are or what age you are. It seems like this game has touched the lives of so many, it's hard to find someone who's never heard of The Legend of Zelda. In fact, I still have the copy of the game that my mother played all the way back in the 80s, and it's one of my most prized possessions. And it makes sense. The Legend of Zelda was one of the NES's flagship titles, along with the mega popular Super Mario Bros., who is still one of the most recognizable icons in all of video gaming. The game was designed and written by Takashi Tezuka, with help from video game legend Shigeru Miyamoto. Miyamoto based the game off of his early childhood, where he would go out and explore his surroundings, using his imagination to make his meanderings into an epic quest. And that shows true in The Legend of Zelda. The game sees Link, the spandex-clad elf, as he tries to rescue Princess Zelda from the evil grips of the pig demon Ganon. You venture throughout Hyrule, scouring the land for hidden dungeons to rebuild the Triforce and slay the evil king. Along the way, you'll find weapons and relics that will aid in your quest, like bombs, potions, a bow and arrow, and a candle. Long gone are the days of piloting a cube or stick figure like in the Atari adventure games. For the first time, gamers were treated with a named and fleshed out character to take the helms of and identify with. This game almost has a mystifying presence. The title itself was vague enough to induce an allure of mystery. Who is Zelda? What is her legend? Am I playing as Zelda? Who am I? What is the meaning of life? This gave the player incentive to go out and explore Hyrule to answer all of these burning questions. And on top of that, the cartridge was solid fucking gold, man. Yeah, you can keep your boring gray Mario. I've got all the 24-karat fun I need over here! But in all seriousness, the game is mysterious in more ways than one. For example, the game gives you absolutely no direction. Nowadays, we would see this as a bad thing, but this only helped the game seem more like a real adventure. You're dropped into this world with nothing except a cave and a heart full of whimsy. And your only call to action? It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. These simple words do more than you may think at first. With this simple, iconic line, you're given all the information that you need. This world is dangerous, and you're the man with the tools to save it. The game features 9 dungeons, that being the eagle, the moon, the manji, the snake, the lizard, the dragon, the demon, the lion, and Death Mountain. These dungeons range from impossible to miss to impossible to find. Here's the thing, man. I used to play the shit out of this game when I was a kid, but all I really did was run around and kill monsters. I didn't even know there were dungeons until my mom told me. You've got to understand something. I'm running this game with a walkthrough on my second monitor, but back then, kids my age didn't have that luxury. The closest thing they had were walkthroughs in the Nintendo Power magazine or just pure word of mouth. This further added to the, quote, legend of Zelda. Maybe the real Legend of Zelda was the friends we made along the way. But in all seriousness, the game was on fire in the late 80s and early 90s. Anyone who was anyone had a copy of Legend of Zelda. And it just goes to show you how much of a lasting impact the Legend of Zelda made on the video games industry. Many modern video game creators cite the Legend of Zelda as their main source of inspiration. The two biggest that we see today are The Binding of Isaac and Undertale. Shigeru Miyamoto even cited the Legend of Zelda as being his inspiration for the Animal Crossing series of games, even though I failed to see how this in any way inspired a game where cute animals harass you for rent money. But the game was not without its own source of inspiration. The lead programmer, Keiji Terui, who also helped write shows like Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball, wrote the story for the game's manual. He got most of his inspiration from the conflicts of medieval Europe. Tezuka wanted the game to take place in a fairy tale environment because he loved the Lord of the Rings trilogy so much. Shigeru Miyamoto even came up with the name of the titular princess from Zelda Fitzgerald, the wife of famous novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald. But great visuals, great storytelling, and impassioned designers were not the only things that this game had going for it. One of the most iconic things about this series, and it still rings true even to this day, the soundtrack is a fucking banger, man! I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but man, this song is so iconic. Every time I hear it, I can't help but hum it for the next several days. The game's soundtrack was written by Koji Kondo, who also helped write music for the Super Mario Bros. Line of games as well. Kondo had planned to use a different track for the title theme, but was forced to change it as the copyright for the song that he was planning to use had not yet expired. So in one day, one fateful day, Koji Kondo wrote the most iconic riff of all time. But I've been blabbering long enough. Let's talk about the actual game. The game itself is gorgeous, and the graphics still hold up even to this day in my opinion. And the UI is reminiscent of the old arcade cabinets that you'd see all over the place during this time period. You've got A to use your sword, B to use your item, you've got a log of how many rupees you have, how many keys you have, how many bombs you have, you've got your life total up in the upper right, and in the upper left, you have the world's most useless map. Like I said, the game makes no effort to hold your hand whatsoever. You've got no blue fairies, no talking swords, no talking boats, just your primal urge for freedom and adventure. But many enemies shall impede your path. But thankfully, the game gives you many different options to deal with these little fiends and critters. For a game made in 1986, Link's arsenal is actually quite impressive. You've got boomerangs, bombs,
The audio got messed up,
of course,
sorry.
a basic sword, which can be upgraded later in the game to the silver sword. It was not called the Master Sword yet, I checked, which can shoot fucking lasers, dude. But only if you're at full health. If you get hit once, no more lasers for you. You don't get lasers anymore. But thankfully, Link does obtain a better shield later in the game, and your health can be upgraded as you progress. But Drew, how do you progress? Well, I'll get into that. You complete the game by beating all 8 dungeons, which actually can be done in any order. Once the 8th dungeon is complete and you have fully rebuilt the Triforce, the game allows you to enter the 9th and final dungeon to defeat Ganon. And you're probably wondering right now, well, this is probably gonna take me a long time. What if I need to go to the bathroom? What if I need to go to school? I can't turn the game off. All of my progress will be lost. Well, that's where you're wrong, idiot. The Legend of Zelda was actually the first home console game that allowed for saving data. It did this by including a battery in every game pack that was released in the United States. And this was pretty big at the time. Normally, you would just play a game for a little while and put it down and then forget about it. But being able to save your game meant that you could invest real time into completing it. And complete it, people did. And funnily enough, you actually got a reward for doing so. And I don't mean just like a thank you from Princess Zelda or perhaps even a little cheeky kiss on the nose. After beating the game, gamers would be treated to a more difficult version known as the Second Quest. That's right, The Legend of Zelda actually has the world's first New Game Plus. Step aside, Dark Souls, there's a real game in town! And it didn't just add more enemies or give them more health. It actually did do that, but it also gave many new locations, secrets, and entirely different dungeons. All of this combined really made The Legend of Zelda one of the most positively reviewed games on the NES. And because of this, The Legend of Zelda would go on to spawn more sequels, like The Legend of Zelda 2, Link's Adventure. That game was released to mixed reviews, but I will defend that game with my fucking life, dude. But even though the game flopped, the children yearned for more Zelda. And so they made The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. But yet, the children yearned for more Zelda. So then they made The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. And the children yearned for more Zelda. So then they made The Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time. And, well, you know where this is going. The point I'm trying to make is the legacy of The Legend of Zelda is palpable. It's tactile. It's, hold on, give me a second, hold on. It's perceptible. It's noticeable. Hold on, give me, just discernible. It's a good game, okay? And ask anybody around. They'll all know about The Legend of Zelda. There's something unifying about it. Everybody I know has a positive memory about playing some Legend of Zelda game at some point during their life. And it really emboldens the point that video games are an art form that bring people together. Wait a minute. So, The Legend of Zelda really was the friends we made along the way? Oh, goddamn.